Whether you're out on the trail or cruising your local streets, is there anything worse than being this guy? I don't know about you, but I absolutely hate being the guy that is driving the vehicle that's popping and banging and making all kinds of weird noises. And that's exactly what I got right now. Every time I turn, I get a popping noise out of the Gladiator. And it's actually going to be a pretty simple fix. You see, with these 38-inch tires on the Gladiator, we're getting just a little bit of rubbing. And it's actually on the plastic inner fender liner. It's actually grabbing the lower piece every time I turn. So we're going to fix that today. And we're going to do it with this. This is the quick release inner fender liners from American Adventure Lab for the Jeep Wrangler JL and Gladiator JT. Off. We're going to get started on the back fender liners. I think they're going to be just a touch easier. First thing we have to do is remove the existing stock inner fender liner. Now to do that, there are a number of push pins throughout the fender liner that we need to find and pull. There are also 3 8mm bolts at the back, and I'll show you a little bit closer up here when we're doing that. And then there's a bunch of push rivets that connect it to the actual fender. So I'm also going to go ahead and take the Rock Block's mud flap off just so I'm not fighting it. I think on the rear we're going to be just fine on retaining that. On the front we'll see how it goes. So we'll get started on this. We'll start by taking off this mud flap. So on the back here just above the frame there are 3 8mm bolts. We'll go ahead and remove those. And next we'll remove all the retaining clips. So now the only thing holding these on are these little plastic rivets. So we use a pick or a screwdriver. You're supposed to push them in from what I've seen. Not quite how we wanted that to go. I think maybe we need to rethink how to do this. All right, so after trying to push the pin through and failing on one where it just ripped the plastic around it, and then another one I was able to get out, but you know, wasn't easy. And taking a look at it, I don't have any reason to believe that they're going to be reusable. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drill out the center pin, pop them all out, and then I'll figure out what to do about filling the holes later. So we'll drill these out. All right, so the inner fender liner on the right rear is out. I do have to disconnect the old rock light, which I'm going to be replacing anyway. I ripped the right front off when I stuffed the wheel at Maris for the Trail Recon Summit. So that's all going away anyway. So I got new rock lights for it. I'm going to pull these out, and yeah, we'll get moving on the rest. All right, so now that we got the inner fender liner out, there's a few of these fender retention clips in the body that we need to remove. So we're going to start with, looks like these two. At this point, I wonder if I should just take the whole damn fender off. Okay, so now we need to install the brackets. So this will go up in here like that. Now you have this little retention clip that's going to go up here and help hold that plastic. And the fun part is that without doing the fender chop, there's this plastic piece up here. All right, so you got this plastic up here. Put that through. It's a 4mm Allen. And it will screw into the nutsert in the bracket here. Do the next one. All right, so the thing I'm struggling with here is it's got these little plastic pieces that come over right where the clips, the factory clips go. And trying to get this in there and access it to be able to put it on is not easy. So I think I might get a blade out and cut those off. They don't really seem to be doing anything. So I think I'm just going to trim those back where I need it for the brackets and call it good. Okay, so now we got our brackets installed. There's one back here as well that you can't see off camera. But next, what we're going to do is we're going to install the bottom bracket here, and we're going to use the factory bolts from the bottom of the fender liner for that. All right, so now all the brackets are in and ready to go. We just have to now next assemble the actual liner. All right, so now we need to assemble the actual inner fender liners. And so the way we're going to do that, take a number of these bolts. Now these already have nutserts in them, so all we got to do is line them up and start threading our bolts in. We'll want to leave these a little bit loose until final assembly. So it seems like some of these can be a bit fiddly to get lined up properly. So what I'm doing is if I'm struggling with one, I just move on to a different hole. And it seems like everything starts to line up a little bit better. So now this is ready to be installed on the Jeep. All right, now before we can install the inner liner, this bracket needs to come off. So we're going to take this off, put that out of the way. On a 13mm. Now this is also where my rock blocks mud flaps attach, so hopefully this won't really affect the mounting bracket for the rock blocks mud flaps. Okay, so now we can take our fender liner, we just need to get our Zeus fasteners. So our Zeus fasteners are 5mm. All right, so there it is. American Adventure Lab inner fender liner for the rear installed. Get the other side knocked out real quick and then we'll move on to the front. But you can see the original inner fender liner would have attached here and come in. So we gained quite a bit of clearance there being able to do that. So there's definitely quite a bit. I mean, here's where the fender liner would have mounted. Here's your height. So you can see we definitely gained a lot of clearance by adding these. So real happy with this. We'll see how the front goes, but super happy with the way the rear has come out, and so far It is not affecting my rock blocks mud flap. It does create a lot more opening back here, but that's okay. Just more places to catch dirt and have to wash later. So we'll get started on the front next. If you're liking the video, give it a thumbs up. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're gonna get going on the front here next. All right, so on the front, we're gonna do the same thing that we did on the rear. We're gonna start by taking off the rock blocks, mud flaps, get them out of the way. Now we just gotta remove this inner fender liner on this one as well. Alright, and there is the inner fender liner out. Alright, so this is where it's going to get a little bit more complicated than the rear, and that's in placing the brackets. Now, I did send a addendum to the instructions for the Gladiator, so we'll see if we can figure this out here. So one of the brackets goes in here, above over this tube. And from looking at the instructions, it looks like you gotta take this off. Pull that up and out of the way a little bit for right now. And this bracket will go in here. And these are self-threading bolts. So I'm gonna get an impact and we'll start running these in. All right, so there's the first bracket. Obviously, I'm gonna have to mess with some of the wiring, make sure it's out of the way. All right, so these two clips up here, where the other two, where the next bracket will go. So these two clips up here we need to be removed for the bracket that goes back in here. So let's see if we can get these to pull out. All right, so now that I struggled to get those out, I think the best thing is gonna be to do it kind of like I did the rear and release pretty much all the clips on the fender to pull the fender back. There are a couple of bolts in the front here. Looks like at least a 110 that I'm going to remove. See if we can get this fender pulled away and make it a little bit easier. All right, so one of the big reasons why I decided to go ahead and back the whole, release the clips and back the whole fender off is right up here in the center is this locating pin. And the bracket that goes in here, it's going to go back behind here, but it has a hole for that locating pin to go through. So you either cut that locating pin off so you don't have to deal with it, or you back the fender off so that you can get it in there properly. So before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at where the other brackets go to see what other clips I need to remove, and we'll get this thing all set. We will get bracket number one, sorry, bracket number two. Number one was down there. Get this in the hole here. Get this kind of lined up. So now we're going to move on to the bracket over here. All right, now the final bracket is going to go down in here, and that's where one of our rock block mud flaps attachment points is, and then you've got a plastic clip there. So we'll remove those. All right, so now we've got the brackets installed. We need to pre-assemble our inner liner. So on the fronts, it's just 4 bolts. And again, we're going to leave these a little bit loose so that we've got some movement until we get it actually in place. And we'll tighten everything down in place, and that'll help line everything up. and we'll take it over to the car. Okay. All right, so I got a couple things going on here that are a little bit out of the ordinary. Of course, when you're modifying anything, you run the risk of other modifications being affected by it. And that's basically what I have going on here. So I do have the TerraFlex Speed Bump 2.0s installed on this, and that does create add a large ring at the top here of the spring perch. And these are designed to fit pretty tight against that spring perch. So I'm actually going to have to go in and modify these panels so that I can get it to clear that and actually get this thing installed. We are getting close, but it is going to take a little bit of extra modification, and we'll get this figured out. So let me get this modified, and then we'll take a look at it when we're done. All right, so the modifications to the panel are complete, and now it is time to actually get this thing in place. All right, there we go. Just got to go through and tighten everything up, so we'll do that here real quick, and then we will be all set with the front. We'll just have to do the driver's side. That should go pretty quick. So yeah, pretty happy with this already. So let's get this tightened up. So as of right now, we do lose one of the bolt holes for the rock blocks mud flaps. It does create some extra wiggle. So I may have to rethink this. We'll figure it out though. On to the other side. All right, so for the most part, the driver's side is the same as the passenger side, but there's a couple of minor differences. Mainly that there's a part in the frame that they say you need to put a nutsert in. Now I actually haven't gotten there yet. I've already had to modify the frame mounted bracket to fit where I need it, and it's once again because I have other modifications on it. If this thing was bone stock, this thing would be just fine, and I am going to have to modify the actual fender liners for the bump stop on this side as well. But let me show you what I've got going on where I've had to modify this and what it's going to take to get this thing actually together here. So this frame mounted bracket needs to go in here, but I have installed the Yeti Steer Smarts sector shaft brace, so it's blocking where this actually mounts. So what I'm actually going to need to do is pull that completely off. I believe the hole back here is where the nutsert needs to go, and yeah, so I've got to pull this whole thing off so I can get the nutsert in there, and then I think the bolts are a low enough profile that it comes with that it will fit back behind that bracket just fine. I did have to modify the bracket, clearance it at the top and down the side of the tab so that it will fit down in around the bracket in there, the Yeti Steer Smarts bracket. So I've got that modified. I can tell holes are lining up. So now I need to take the sector shaft brace off, which means I also have to disconnect the track bar and all that fun stuff. So this is going to be fun. All right, so we got the track bar dropped down. We've got the sector shaft brace removed. This is the hole. It's a hexagonal hole that we need to put a nutsert in so that this bracket can be bolted in right there. And then we can get the Steer Smarts bracket all reattached. Hopefully the track bar won't fight us too much. Let's go ahead and see if we can get a nutsert in there. All right, so there's the bracket in place. Now hopefully that will, the new sector shaft brace will clear that. It does have a pretty good lip to it there, so I think it should drop right down in there and be okay. So we're about to find out. Oh yeah, that'll be perfect. All right, so we'll get that bolted in and get this front end put back together, and then we can actually install the inner fender liner. Of course, we do have to trim for the bump stop, but we'll get that knocked out pretty quick, and be back when we got it all set up. All right, so we got everything trimmed up. Now it's time to just get the liners in place. All right, so there it is, all complete. So that is the American Invention Lab inner fender liner install on the 2020 Gladiator. I am super stoked to have this done, and I don't have to worry about that obnoxious noise anymore. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and remember to hit that subscribe button. Next thing for me is to get this thing back out in the dirt and test it out in the real world. So I'll see you next time.